Hey guys, so I get asked this question all the time. People want to see what it is that I do when I meal prep. And let me tell you, I work out of my home. So for me, I don't have to make all the meals in advance so that they're grab and go. I just have to make sure that all of my vegetables and my fruits and everything are ready to go so that when I do want to make my meal, they're all cleaned and ready, right? I don't have to mess with, cleaning them at the time that I need to prepare the meal, because usually life gets in the way and things happen and I just want to grab and go, right? And throw them in the oven. So here's what I do to start out, right? So you have to have a plan. I'm actually following a 14-day plan. That's what I have my vegetables and everything for a plan that I put together. This one is going to be plant-based. So this is a new concept for me. I am not a vegan, plant-based person whatsoever, but I have a lot of clients that are, and they are struggling of how to put together their meals so that they're fueling their body, right? To boost that metabolism, to get that fat burning machine going. So I put together recipes in my 14-day plan. It is the fall edition, but it's also going to be a vegan edition. So I'm going to show you, first of all, what I do. So you have to read over a plan. And I have shopping lists in all my plans. So I went shopping based on my shopping list. And then I looked at the recipes that I'm going to use in this. And it's like, okay, I had to make sure that I bought the ingredients for specific recipes that I'm going to make. And I'm going to tell you, the meal prepping and all of that, it does take some time, but you get quicker at it and you get better at it, and it just becomes second nature. When I go to the grocery store, this is what I do. I do not put in dirty vegetables into the refrigerator. I make sure everything is prepped and ready to go. Again, why? So that when I do want to cook or eat, it's readily accessible. I don't have to clean and mess around with it at the time. So I already made my list. I went to the store, I got the ingredients and everything that I needed for my plant-based recipes, and I'm just gonna show you some of the things that I have. So right now I have Brussels sprouts, right? I cleaned, washed them, cut them, and I'm not gonna half them at this time. Sometimes I cut them in half. They're not really, really large, but they're all cleaned and ready to go. So I actually take a baking sheet, I put a cloth down on it, wash them and let them dry, and then I'm going to put them in a bag. Why is that? So that when I'm ready to eat them, all I do is throw them on a sheet pan, and then I sprinkle them with a little bit of olive oil, salt and pepper, garlic, and throw them in the oven and roast them, or put them in the air fryer, which is fantastic, right? So those are ready to go. So I'm just gonna clean those or put them in the bag and they're ready. The other thing that I have here is I have, to turn the camera, broccoli. So this is all my broccoli. I washed them, cleaned them, cut them up. And again, they're on a cloth and they're drying so that I can throw those two in a bag. And again, great for recipes that I'm just gonna throw into the oven, right? Or in the recipe that it calls for. So it's ready to go. Next, I have a cucumber, okay? That's for one of the recipes, but I washed it and it's ready to go. So I can chop it up and use it in that recipe when it's time. The other thing, I have a bell pepper. Now with this, I washed it, I got it ready to go. Usually I will core it and then chop it up and get it ready, but if I'm not going to use it right away, if I chop it up and slice it and I don't use it right away, it can go bad pretty quick. So I know I'm not going to use this for a recipe until later on in the week. So I just have it washed and ready to go for that recipe. Next, I have apples. All different kinds of apples here, and they're all washed and cleaned and ready to go. Why? So that I can just grab that apple. I don't have to mess around with washing it, and it's ready to go. Next thing I have, I showed you I had zucchini, so I washed them and I cut the ends off. And now this depends on what recipe I'm going to use, but I will just throw it into the refrigerator again. So when it's ready for that recipe, if the recipe calls for diced, it's ready to go. Or I have a recipe and it calls for spiralized. So I have this little gadget, and it was like $5 or something that I purchased, and I'm actually going to spiralize a couple of zucchini for a recipe. So let me show you how easy this is. I turn the pan around, so I actually have a place that I'm going to spiralize them onto. Easy as this. And I just put it on here and I start turning it, okay? And again, this is something that I'm gonna use relatively quick, otherwise they will go bad. So if you spiralize, be prepared to use that either that night or the next day, because you don't want these sitting around, they will go bad. I know you can buy them in the grocery store like this, but hey, you know, it's cheaper just to do this and get them ready to go. So I'm gonna finish this whole one and then show you the stack that I have. How simple is that, right? Get a great arm workout in too. Keep it going. Almost done, but you're getting the idea. Now, I'm not quite sure how much I paid for the zucchini squash, but I know if you buy a package like this, which is basically one zucchini, you're paying a lot to have somebody else spiralize it. And for some, if time is of the essence and you don't like being in the kitchen, well, then you might want to pay that extra money to have somebody else sit here and spiralize it. For me, I'm a little cheap because I want to save my money for other things like products maybe, right? I don't want to say I'm not going to take my vitamins because I can't afford it, and then I spend, you know, $5 on zucchini noodles, right? So look at that, a great big bunch. Easy as that. So I'm going to put that in the container, and that is ready to go. All right, so the next thing that I'm going to do is actually, I have almonds. A lot of times I get them at Costco, but I didn't go to Costco because I just got back into town. So I bought a couple of pounds of raw, unsalted almonds, and I take a 1/4 cup and I put them into snack size bags. Why do I do that? Because if my hand goes in the bag, my hand will keep going into the bag, and then I get more than a 1/4 serving, a 1/4 cup. Now I also get walnuts, and I do the exact same thing with walnuts. You know, and this is a great healthy snack. I tend to go for walnuts more than I do almonds. However, my husband does like almonds, and I do too. I just try to get a nice mixture of using walnuts and almonds. So I'm just gonna keep bagging these up so that I have them ready to go. And you know, if you feel so compelled, you just keep going and do every nut in the bag that you bought, or you get enough for a week's worth, and have it ready to go. Again. Okay, so the next thing, the squash. Now, you don't have to do this, but this is what I'm gonna do. I'm just gonna get it ready because let's face it, when nighttime comes and I have to throw dinner in the oven, I don't wanna mess with this. So I am going to try not to cut my finger. I'm actually gonna cut this squash right in half. That's how I do it, okay? So we get it cut in half. That's what it looks like. And I'm going to take something, a spoon, and I'm gonna scrape out the inside. That's what it looks like, okay? Do the same thing to the other one. And then I'm just gonna store these in a bag and put it in the refrigerator until it's time to use. Okay, so the next thing that I'm gonna do, and again, this is for meatless, right? So this is vegan recipes that I am preparing for. So I have tofu. This is organic tofu, extra firm. I drained it, so I have a hole in here and I've already drained it. Now I'm gonna open it up. And what I have is a plate and a piece of paper towel. So I'm gonna put the paper towel down, and now I'm gonna take the tofu out of the package, and it looks like a great big sponge, and I'm put it down right on the paper towel, okay? And then I'm gonna get some more paper towel. Paper towel, I double it over, put it right on top, like that. And then I have a cutting board. I'm gonna put the cutting board on top. And then I'm gonna put books on top. Okay, so these are recipe books. And what it looks like is just stacked. This is my way of pressing it out. I have another tofu in there. And for the recipe, another recipe that I'm gonna make, it actually is ground tofu. So I'm gonna crumble it up. I don't need to press it, but for one recipe, I'm gonna press it. And this way, if it's pressed and all the water is taken out of it, it will crunch up and crisp up really, really nice. That is for one of the recipes I'm gonna make tonight, which is Brussels sprouts, cranberries, and the tofu. So I'm gonna let this sit and press and get all the moisture out. When it's out, then I'm gonna cut it up in blocks like crouton-sized pieces, and then throw that on the sheet pan. So again, I'm preparing all this in advance, and you can press this in advance too, and then just put it in a container so that when you're ready to use, you can just throw it into the sheet pan, right onto a sheet pan. Again, olive oil, salt, pepper, maybe sesame oil, garlic, and then roast it. Actually, the air fryer works great for roasting tofu. All right, so another thing that I do to prepare, quinoa. I also do this with brown rice as well, but I'm gonna make up some quinoa because that is something in my 14-day plan. Remember, I always have a plan that I'm referring to, right? I have to have recipes, I have to have some type of guideline, right? And when you know this, and when the diet becomes your lifestyle, you just know that these are the staple items that you always buy, and you may not have to plan so much and always refer to a plan. But when you're just getting started, you need a plan. You need to figure it all out. And then it becomes second nature, right? This becomes your lifestyle, and then it's what? It's a habit. So what I have here is quinoa, and I'm gonna cook up this because I have a lot of recipes in a plant-based diet that call for quinoa. So I'm gonna take a cup, and what I have here is an Instapot. And I tell you, if you have an Instapot, it's great. You can set it and forget it. It works wonders with brown rice. But the other thing is quinoa, it's so simple to do. You can actually put it on the stove in water, bring it up to a boil, and then as soon as it comes up to a boil, put the lid on it, set it and forget it, right? And then fluff it up later on. You don't have to even really watch it. But for me, I'm gonna put it in the Instapot. So I have a cup of quinoa by 2 cups of water. And then find the lid. I'm gonna put the lid on it, right? And then just set it and forget it. And in about 10, 15 minutes, it will be done. Then what I do with that is I'll put it in a dish, actually carry out. I'll show you the carry outs that I get. Go to Gordon's, you can get a whole bunch of these. Actually in the grocery store now too, a whole bunch of these. So I'm gonna actually just put the quinoa in there, so when it comes time for the recipe, and it's not gonna be tonight, it'll probably be tomorrow, I can grab it. This is gonna be great on the salads if that's what I'm choosing to make, or I have a great cucumber, quinoa, black bean, and again, this is plant-based diet that I'm gonna be following in the 14-day plan. So that's it. Set it and forget it. All right, you guys, so that was it. That was it. The mystery was solved, right? Now, if you are someone that has to have all their meals prepped so that you have them for the week, well, then your prepping is gonna look a little bit different. You're gonna do exactly what I did, but you might be throwing some sheet pan meals into the oven, or you might be cooking some of this and then portioning it out into different meal preps so that it's a grab and go container. Remember, for me, I don't have to do that. I'm gonna cook it as I need it because I work here in my home. So, you know, the tofu, we have the little blocks, so they're pressed, right? All ready to go. This is for my dinner tonight. I have Brussels sprouts, cleaned, ready to go. This is gonna go with the tofu dinner tonight. And again, I'm just gonna throw it onto a sheet pan. Here's all my broccoli cleaned and ready to go. So when I'm ready for it in a recipe, I can throw it in the recipe, or a great side dish, right? Because these and all of these veggies, they're low on the glycemic index, which means you can fill your plate up with these, right? We want half of our plate to be the color of the rainbow, and then a portion of it to be 3 to 4 ounces for women and about 5 or 6 for men. You want it to be protein. And then if you are using at dinner or at lunch, if you're using any type of grain, that's when you're going to go with a half a cup of the grain, either quinoa or the brown rice is what I use. You can use farro, but they're ready to go, right? So I have my tomatoes from my garden, clean, ready to go. The squash, you saw me do that, right? So it's ready to go for a meal. This is just cleaned and ready to go. And then my spiralized veggies for the next dish that I'm gonna make, which looks really good with cannellini beans. So everything's ready to go. I have it all in the refrigerator. I'll take a snapshot of that, but that's how easy it really is. And again, if you're the one that needs to make all your meals in advance for the week, your meal prep is gonna take a little bit longer, right? But if you have this ready to go, it will just make things so much easier. Save yourself time in the long run, right? So these are short-term sacrifices for long-term gains. And this will eventually just become your habit. Do I actually enjoy coming home from the grocery store and doing that? No, because I have a bazillion things to do on my plate. But I needed food. So this is ready to go, and now it's done already for the week. So, hope that makes sense. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, let me know.